Small tram locomotives were seen in various parts of the UK on some light railways. Designed to work on standard gauge track, but with close proximity to roads, resulted in the need to enclose all the working parts in the name of safety, resulting in a very interesting look and style. Join me in this video as I show you how I made the most of this Budget Model Railways 3D printed tramway locomotive using some simple and cost-effective techniques. Hi, I'm Matt and you're watching Model Minutes. Before I start the build of this model, please remember that adult supervision may be required due to the use of sharp tools and toxic paints and chemicals. For a more in-depth look at the parts of this kit, you can find a detailed unboxing video on this subject I previously made on my channel. For this video though, I will primarily be focusing on how it builds up and what it's like as a kit in general. I would also like to thank Budget Model Railways for sending this kit to me free of charge, for the purposes of building and reviewing, but all opinions and comments do remain my own. This kit will present a number of challenges as it is slightly different to the kits I normally build, as this is a 3D printed and not injection moulded model. The first thing I'm going to do is clean up all the leftover plastic from the printing process. As each part is built up in a series of layers and has support material to help keep things the right shape, some of this excess material will need to be removed. You could use sanding sticks or abrasive papers to do this, but for ease and speed I will be using my rotary sanding wheel. Removing the excess material will help the parts fit together better. With that done, it was now time to start gluing things together. This plastic can be used with polycement, as you would normally have for other plastic kits, but this plastic is a little more dense. Although the glue works, it takes a lot longer to actually bond the plastic together. For this reason, I opted to use superglue for the most part, as it will bond much quicker. I like the way that Budget Model Railways have designed their kit, as they focus on simplicity. The tram is effectively a box with a roof and a floor. The ends are glued into little slots in the sides and the floor is then added to them. This floor has a large hole in it which will clip onto the standard 040 chassis from Hornby, which you might be able to get second hand or new from various retailers for a cheap price. I won't be adding a chassis to this one though. With the three sides in place, it's now time to add the final side. I have been using some Humbrol polycement as well as the superglue. It is my hope that the superglue will provide the initial hold and allow the polycement that extra time to work into the plastic and really bond it together. Now that the main body has more or less been built, it's time to get the buffers cleaned up. You get 5 included in the kit, but you will only need 4. One of them is included as a spare just in case you lose or damage one. You can see the support material that is left over from the printing process, and this will need to be cut off and sanded smooth. I did this using scissors to remove the larger areas and separate the parts. I then used my sanding stick to remove any excess plastic. These 4 buffers can now be glued into their holes in the buffer beams. For the most part they can just be pushed straight in, but they do fit really tightly, so some force might need to be applied. You might need to clean out some of these holes using a similar sized drill bit if you are struggling though, just to give you a little extra space. Now it's time to start painting. Here I'm using this cheap matte black spray paint I bought in a local home shop for only £1 a can. I will apply this to the body and roof in a sweeping motion to provide good even coverage. A few coats may need to be applied, and it's worth noting that you will need the correct protective equipment and a suitable environment in which to conduct spray painting. I do most of my spraying outside to help protect my lungs. With the black paint now dry, I masked off all the areas that I wanted to stay black using masking tape. That includes the roof, which I've just pressed into place for now, and the lower frames of the tram. Here I'm using this cheap red gloss spray paint. Again, another £1 purchase. I repeated the process as before, using a sweeping motion and a number of coats to get a good even finish. With the paint now dry, it's time to remove the tape, and it's done quite a good job of protecting the black areas. I was happy with this, so I moved on to the next step. I used Humbrol 171 antique bronze acrylic straight out of the pot and applied it to the raised framework and lettering of the model. As this is going onto a red base, it will make the bronze colour look a little bit more like a gold, and I quite like that effect. With that done, I cut some clear plastic from some packaging and made sure it was the right size to be placed inside the model and act as windows. I used Yoo-Hoo general purpose glue to stick it into place. This glue dries quickly and forms a good bond, whilst also drying clear. It does, however, leave strings, which, if you're not careful, can make a mess on your model. With the glazing finished, the final step was to add the roof. Again, I used a combination of superglue and poly cement to do this. It was carefully pushed into place and I made sure it lined up correctly. And here it is, the finished tramway loco in my own custom livery from Budget Model Railways. Realistically, this only took about 3 or 4 hours to complete. Most of that time was spent waiting for paint and glue to dry. It's not a complicated build and I think it looks rather attractive when it's done. I think it would be unfair to compare it directly with the normal kinds of kits that I build from the likes of Revell, Airfix and Dapol, as those all come from large manufacturers, whereas BMR is a cottage industry at the moment and don't have the resources of the larger guys. The areas that are different are in that the 3D parts have excess material and a slightly difficult fit in places, but it is relatively easy to overcome. Also, there can be some gaps between the parts which some modelers might not like, but that would be easy for them to fix using some filler and sanding it smooth. To save on costs, you won't get paper instructions, but they are available on their website. Also, no decals or stickers are included for the same reason, but I wouldn't really see that as an issue, as if you really want them, there are a number of manufacturers you might be able to source some suitable ones from. So, how much does this retail for? At the time I made this video, it was available on the BMR website for £15. Depending on what you choose to use to finish this kit, and if you get a chassis second hand for example, you could realistically have a working tramway locomotive for around the £20 or £25 mark. I think this fits into the budget model railway philosophy here, as even the cheapest ready-to-run locomotive from Hornby is in the £35 to £40 bracket. Keeping on that theme, my expenses here were the £2 on spray paint and £1 on superglue. Everything else I already owned from previous projects, which really kept costs down for me. So let's wrap this one up. This is a rather fun and interesting little model of a freelance tramway locomotive, which, although inspired by real ones, isn't based on anything in particular. It does present its own challenges during the build, but you should end up with a cool little model by the end, and you are only really limited by your imagination on the paint scheme you give it. What do you think of this kind of kit? Do you think it's value for money, and do you think you would get one for yourself? As always, let me know what you think of my finished build in the comments below, and feel free to post suggestions for other videos you might like to see too. Honourable mention to my patrons over on Patreon. Thanks to the generous support of these guys, it allows me to continue to produce consistent content for you all to watch, through the purchasing of consumables such as paints and brushes to new kits and products to review. To find out more about what pledging gets you, including early access to videos amongst other things, take a look at the link in the description. Don't forget that you can connect with me on social media too. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and my own Discord server. Oh, and if you made it this far, please consider pressing that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. And if you subscribe with notifications on, you won't miss any future builds or reviews I upload. All that's left to say is thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the workbench again next time.